Support for this podcast comes from Invent Together. I bet you didn't know that inventing activity by Black inventors peaked in 1899, and it has never recovered. Black and Hispanic college graduates patented half the rate of white college graduates. That's just one of the reasons why you need to know about Invent Together. When our patent system gets more diverse, our nation will get stronger and more successful. Find out how you can help diverse inventors and unleash economic opportunity at inventtogether.org.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here for an impromptu edition of the C3 Carolina Cat Chronicles podcast. Because when news breaks like what just broke, man, shame on us if we didn't come on here and react for you guys. Tony had his internet cord sliced in half, and it doesn't matter. We're going to find a way to get on YouTube and talk about this. We already have 45 people in the chat room. My goodness. Listen, ain't nothing to it but to do it. No need to bury the lead. The Carolina Panthers have traded for Sam Darnold for, I believe it's a 6th round pick in 2021 and a 2nd round pick in 2022 and a 2022 4th round pick. And man, this changes everything for what the Panthers are going to do in the draft, how we plan on building the team going forward, what that means for our quarterback room, quarterback competition with Teddy Bridgewater. There's so much to talk about. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Without further ado, let me introduce my co-host here, your normal host for the C3 Panthers podcast, Tony Dunn. Tony, how are you, brother?
I am live and direct from my cell phone, as you indicated. I'm telling you, when you were texting me, the guy was knocking on my door saying, "We just cut a cable outside. What is it?" And my kid's like, "The internet's out."
Oh, no.
Anyway, as I then flipped over to see what the news was, I saw that the Carolina Panthers have moved for Sam Darnold. Was the 2nd round pick? I thought it was this year's second. Is it next year?
No, it's next year's, 2022 2nd round pick.
Okay. So we gave up a 6 this year,
yep.
A 2 next year, and a 4?
Yeah, next year, yep.
All right, so I guess the initial question just is, do we like to move or not? And then the next part of the question is going to be, was this too much, too little, or just right? And I'm not going to lie, is that I'm happy to see, or I'm not surprised to see that the Carolina Panthers did this. But I did think that they should be trying to sneak away with a 3 and it's a lot of draft capital next year. It's a significant amount of draft capital next year, but not a unruly amount. So the Carolina Panthers have made a decisive move. And I guess the third question we'll be asking is, what does this tell us what their thoughts were about how the top 8 picks are going to unfold? And I got some important thoughts on it. And I want to start by just going all the way back to the beginning. When we talked about Teddy Bridgewater not having what it takes, or not showcasing what it takes to get this team through. And on top of that, as we continued to say, look, this organization is telling you this. It's not fans just hating on this. And again, look, the Panthers were in on Matt Stafford. Then they were missed out on Deshaun Watson because of the legal concerns, or at least he's a non-issue. San Francisco moves aggressively up to 3, saying quarterback is going 1, 2, and 3. And now the Carolina Panthers, who have ultimately, what does this tell us about Teddy Bridgewater? Right?
Well,
how the Carolina Panthers, are they going to really honestly create a competition after giving up significant assets? And we know Teddy's feelings can get hurt. They are hurting right now.
I really do think you have to. I mean, I knowing that you have Bridgewater for another year and Sam Darnold, I definitely think that's going to be a competition. Let me introduce our other guest, CK. CK, how are you, man?
Oh, just number one, I'm glad to hear.
Is this a part of living the dream in your opinion?
It is, but you got to keep in mind, I never tell you the type of dream that it is. There's a nightmare is still a dream, bro.
All right. But that actually, go ahead.
But with this, I mean, obviously, we are all surprised within the last hour to hear this news. And we quickly, did we just do this? Or we get and from outside looking in, right? People when a lot of us Panthers fans, we have not seen a lot of film on Sam Darnold. We literally are only basing what we know off of what we've heard other people say, and the fact that he doesn't have a winning record as a QB. And so there are some things that we need to learn about Darnold still. I personally didn't think he should have been a 2. All right, there shouldn't have been a second rounder. I mean, maybe more picks, but maybe more than just 3 picks, but not have a second rounder be a part of it. Would have been my guess. But I'm just happy to know that they are looking to actively move away from Teddy Bridgewater, because Teddy Bridgewater, I'll tell you right now, if anybody who is a defender of Teddy Bridgewater saying, if you watch the film, they literally just traded 3 draft picks so they don't have to go forward with Teddy Bridgewater for a QB that is proven less than Teddy Bridgewater has in his career, right? Think about that. That's how much this organization did not trust Teddy Bridgewater to take the helm and move us into the promised land. Yeah. So I think this answers a lot of questions. The people that are watching the film, that are in the organization, saw the limitations that we as Panther fans saw, and they made a move just like we thought they would. And the fact that it wasn't a draft pick, I'm not upset about. We knew at least 4 QBs are going to be gone by the time it gets to us. Do we really want the 5th best QB? With the number 8 pick, or can we do something better with that now? Yeah,
so let's really get to this full force. I mean, it says a lot about 1, Teddy Bridgewater, 2, what we think about our prospects of landing a quarterback in the draft actually are, and number 3, it says to me that they, which again, we still need to ask the question on what happens if a Trey Lance does, for whatever reason, end up falling to number 8. I don't think it will, and that's part of the reason why I think the Panthers even made this move, because they were kind of reading the tea leaves that Atlanta's looking to trade back. Apparently, the Detroit Lions are looking to trade back, and a bunch of other quarterback-needy teams picking in the teams. They're looking at the Panthers as a spot that you have to jump. So, and I was saying on the podcast, Atlanta, they were going to box us out. Even if we loved Trey Lance or Justin Fields, if they were there, they were going to trade that spot to someone else who wasn't their division rival. Now, let's go through this. Sam Darnold as a player. We need to talk about what we think about this because, dude, I was watching film all day today. I put on my Twitter. I was watching film. I'm working on my big board, trying to put out my top 50 players of the draft. I've been working on that. And then this news drops. And my initial reaction was anger, but then I had to just stop myself and say, okay, Cody, put your fan bias aside. If you were a general manager, how would you evaluate this move? And I think of it like this. Sam Darnold is 24 years old. That's the same age as Joe Burrow, okay? Once upon a time, Sam Darnold was considered to be the number 1 prospect in the 2017 draft. Everyone thought that he was going to go number 1 to the Browns. So then you pair that with he goes to Adam Gase, and Adam Gase is notorious for players leaving his coaching staff and then going on to have success in other places. Also knowing that we have Joe Brady still as our offensive coordinator, and look at what he was able to do with Joe Burrow. And in the first year, Joe Burrow at LSU had nowhere near the kind of talent that projected him to be a number 1 pick in the draft. But with the right offensive system, the right coaching staff, the right players around that person, he was able to thrive and live up to his full potential.
And let's be honest.
Yeah, one last thing, and then I'll pass the mic to you, Tony. Another thing to consider is this. We know for a fact that we have his fifth-year option. So we have, I believe, another 3 years. It's either 2 or 3 years left.
Right, and I've been trying to figure this out, Cody. So he's drafted in 2018, correct?
Yeah, 2018. Yeah, 2018.
18, 19, 20, 3 years. 21 is 4 now. 22 is 5. So I think it is ultimately we get 2 years to decide if he is more than a bridge, if he needs an extension. That decision can be punted into 2022.
Because you're a loyal listener of this podcast, I want to let you in on something awesome, and that's HelloFresh. Their quick, easy meals can be made in 15 to 20 minutes. You can get breakfast on the go, tons of easy options, and here's the best part. You don't have to go to the store, and it doesn't require a lot of meal prep. They send you the recipe, they send you the ingredients, it's easy to make. You have yourself fresh food right there. They've got a wide variety of delicious options for all 3 meals of the day, plus snacks and special treats in between within the HelloFresh market. And I'm going to tell you how you can get up to 14 free meals plus free shipping. All you have to do is go to HelloFresh.com/ACSports14 and use the promo code ACSports14 for up to 14 meals plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/ACSports14, promo code ACSports14. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Yeah. By the way, Lynn says that my audio is cutting out. Let us know in the chat if we have any kind of audio issues. Tony is not on his normal setup, so that's why his audio is a little bit different right now. But also, look, put your comments in the chat about what you think Sam Darnold is going to be for us. I know there's a lot of optimists, there's a lot of pessimists. Tony, I was saying on the podcast just recently that Sam Darnold needs to be a part of the Carolina Panthers backup plan. If we were not able to have the quarterback fall to us, then Sam Darnold had to be in the discussion because it was better than going into the season without him.
You made the case that this was a break glass in case of emergency kind of maneuver. And to be honest, the emergency is Teddy Bridgewater, a $63 million contract, and you put 1 year into him, and you saw that you got the best Teddy Bridgewater last year that you think you're going to get. That's what I think this says, is that we said, look, Teddy did exactly what Teddy was. And that was the thing, is we saw the best of Teddy. And I think they're betting up there. They are, like you said, reading the tea leaves. They're saying, look, it's going to cost us way too much to move up. You know, San Francisco either beat us to the punch or we were not comfortable leveraging those assets, which I have a hard time believing that we just wouldn't match San Francisco's deal, because we gave up a significant amount for Darnold right here. I mean, it's a noteworthy amount. And we're going to be carrying some heavy fees when it comes to Teddy Bridgewater on the salary cap. Now, I'm excited about this move, Cody. I'm excited about this move because the biggest fear I had was, one, being backed into a corner and taking Mac Jones, and you're not feeling comfortable about it at 8. Like, you feel like you've got to pick a quarterback at 8, and whoever's there, even if you missed out on your guy, you got to do it. So I was worried about that. I was also concerned about how I would be able to handle a Carolina Panthers offense with Teddy Bridgewater at the helm next year, and how I would be able to get ultimately excited about the Panthers' potential prospects. You know, because at the beginning of a season, you're 0-0, and we all want to be 1-0 and on our way to the Super Bowl. I was wondering how Teddy Bridgewater, however, would shape my outlook for the potential for Carolina Panthers. Now, there is an optimism of an unknown that comes with Sam Darnold. But the key that makes me comfortable at this point with at least trying this is that Sam Darnold is an example of more than just a guy who was drafted by an organization and thrust into a difficult spot. Sam Darnold is an example of a guy who was drafted by an organization that was 100% dysfunctional under Adam Gase and all of their GM moves. Look at what Miami did in the wake of Adam Gase. Adam Gase left, and they finally found a way to start a positive trajectory. I'm not saying that everything about the Jets is awful and that Sam Darnold was complete victim of that, but the problems with the New York Jets were deeper and more systemic than just the offensive line on the field and a lack of talent.
But there's a question.
Go ahead.
I would say that the question that I have with all of this is, number one, we've got to ask the question, what is the ceiling for Sam Darnold? Right now, we know what we get, right? We can hope right now, I think, for a scenario where Sam Darnold turns out to be like a Ryan Tannehill, leaving Gase and then having a comeback that allows the league to realize, okay, maybe Gase was the problem, right? Because that's really what happened. If you saw what happened from Miami, he left Miami, he left that environment, he started somewhere new that had talent around him already, and he thrived. Is he a top 5 quarterback? Absolutely not. But they were able to succeed as a franchise and come close in 2 years of him at the helm of making it to the Super Bowl, right? Were they going to beat a high-powered Kansas City? No, and that is where the question is, what is the ceiling? Because if it's Ryan Tannehill, it's not bad. It's exciting because we're going to win some games. But are we going to do what Kansas City did with Sam Darnold at the helm? Because he is not going to be the type of quarterback that, at least on the surface, not knowing what his ceiling really is he going to actually take this franchise to the next level? Now,
he can sling it, though. He can sling it. And that's the thing, is we had a quarterback who couldn't sling it. We had a quarterback who didn't turn the ball over, certainly. And turnovers are something that ruin a football game. But defenses also create turnovers. And what I mean by that is like you can't just be like, well, we have an offense that doesn't turn over the ball. You need to have an offense that doesn't turn over the ball and a defense who also creates turnovers. But the problem was there was a cap, a ceiling, and a limitation of what could be in Carolina's offense. Right?
Yeah, but by the way, Lynn chimes in with that. She says coupled with our offensive weapons, too. And I think that's really what
Christian McCaffrey coming back. Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
Christian McCaffrey,
DJ Moore. Dynamic.
And listen, other than a 6th-round pick, the rest of our draft is still intact. So you have to realize now we're going to have basically Scott Fitterer's first draft in the NFL is going to be to assemble an all-star draft of protection and weapons for Sam Darnold to be able to continue to thrive. And so, look, real quick, before we go any further, this is probably the most viewers we've ever had on the channel. 165 people watching on YouTube. If you haven't seen 175 across YouTube, Periscope, Facebook. Listen, if you're on YouTube and you're a fan of the Panthers and you haven't seen us before, we're the C3 Carolina Cat Chronicles podcast. Hit the like and subscribe button. We do this every Tuesday night at 9. We do an in-depth podcast about the Carolina Panthers. We've been dropping film reviews on all the best players in this year's draft, and especially now that we know that the Panthers more than likely aren't going to be drafting a quarterback, we're going to be looking at all the best offensive linemen, the best corners, the best players that the Panthers are going to be in consideration of picking in rounds 1 and 2. So if you like the content, please hit the like, please hit the subscribe, and hit the notification bell for whenever we go live. And I think that actually leads us to a good segue. By the way, shout out to our man, Ken Folk NC, for the $20 love bomb. You know we appreciate that love, man. But let's talk about this, because I really do think that, what I just mentioned, the upside of having DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and by the way, that's another Robbie Anderson, Sam Darnold connection. Those two were teammates on the Jets. Knowing that we have a very talented wonderkin offensive coordinator that is still down the road going to be considered for head coaching jobs. And I think the Panthers are looking at it like, what's more likely, that the Panthers are able to turn around Sam Darnold and kick the tires and rejuvenate his career with a better supporting cast, a better locker room, and just a better team with a fresh environment. We have a brand new head coach, brand new offensive coordinator. There's something brand new happening here with the Carolina Panthers as this team undergoes a rebuild that it's never frankly gone through before. So at this point in time, the Panthers feel like they have a better bet of turning around Sam Darnold than they do of drafting a quarterback, and maybe you have to develop him for a year. Trey Lance
might not be plug and play, even potentially with one of the better of the prospects, right? I mean, is that, yes, there's going to be Trey Lance and Justin Fields. You throw them in there, their athleticism, their arm talent would probably lend to some immediate success and excitement, but there would also be limitations on how well prepared they were for the pro game. Now you're getting kind of a top. You're needing this guy. It's all fresh page for Sam Darnold, and in many ways, this is just if you are optimistic as a Colts fan that Wentz can find some sort of resurgence in Indianapolis on a good team, you probably should be just as excited as a Carolina Panther fan that he could find a new, turn a new leaf in an improved organization, because the Panthers team was trending in the right direction even at the last year. Even, despite it being a tough year, the defense got better throughout the year. The offense showed competency, but there was just true limitations there, and we didn't have Christian McCaffrey. I'm pumped about this because I do think we would have had to give up so much, Cody.
This episode is brought to you by HP Instant Ink. No one is reading your mind, but HP Instant Ink knows when your printer is running low and sends you new cartridges, so you never have to think about ink. Save up to 50%. You'll pay less than $5 a month for ink and never run out again. Find out if your printer is eligible and enroll today at hpinstantink.com. Conditions apply. For details, visit hp.com/instantink Spotify.
Yeah, I do too. I think we would have had to move up a lot. We would have had to give up a few first-round picks, and I think this allows us to team build. And, people have been saying, a lot of the Panther fans, there's a part of Panther fandom that has been wanting us to move off of the quarterback discussion completely, build the rest of the football team, so that way, later on down the road, if we're in a position like the 49ers or whoever who, has the roster in place and they're okay giving up a bundle of picks to really move up and go get that player, that's now. I mean, it's not just whether or not we want to do it. That's pretty much what we are doing. Shout out to Adam Sanders for the $10. Picking up Sewell or Kyle Pitts at this point might be what we need to start looking at. Even Slater, we have to build around the quarterback now to make him successful. And this is a huge benefit to this because now, all of a sudden, J.C. Horn is in contention at number 8 for the Carolina Panthers. Penei Sewell, by the way, Penei Sewell has become my draft crush. I mean, learning about who he is as a player and as a person, dude, Penei Sewell is a monster. All of a sudden, that possibility is now open for us at the 8th pick. Some people even said that now we might even be a candidate to trade back in the draft, maybe somewhere in the teens, and get even more picks. It really does kind of open up the table of possibilities for what the Panthers can do right now. Let's go this. So, CK, what do you think the next move for the Carolina Panthers is going to be now? Because, we could build our defense. Like I said, we can go cornerback at number 8 and Patrick Surtain from Alabama, or like I said, J.C. Horn from South Carolina. The offensive line is a big question mark that we still need to bolster and get better at. What do you think the Carolina Panthers' next move is probably going to be here?
I think right now the main focus is the draft. I don't see a scenario where the only other option I see other than taking Pitts or Sewell at the very beginning is going to be trading back. That's going to be the only way that I see anything else. Them trying to recuperate some of the lost draft picks by trading out of the top 10, which, I know Fitterer hasn't necessarily had the luck of having a top 10 pick before. But he is synonymous for trading back, or at least he's a part of an organization that is known for that. So I could see that, and then them make a really big push to try to build this offensive line and whatnot. There's some news that I think everybody needs to also keep in mind. Sources are telling us that the Panthers plan on exercising the 5th-year option for Darnold, immediately. And there's also, because I think this is his 4th year, his 5th year, we would have to exercise it this year in order for us to have him next year even. But so we're going to, sources tell reporters that's going to be the case. And from what Ian Rappaport said, we are going to be, we're in the market of trading Teddy Bridgewater now. So now we're in this, but again, I think we're exactly where we were last year with Cam Newton, and that's the problem. So I think we've played our cards. We've put things out there that we're trying to do these things, and now people know that we have to get rid of Teddy Bridgewater. There's no other option. We can't keep Teddy Bridgewater on this roster right now. That is the only option. So people they're gonna be like, all right, we'll take him off your hands if you send us the 2nd-round pick and Teddy Bridgewater, and then we'll give you a 6th-round pick to actually make it a transaction. So where we would lose the trade and lose value in doing it, but we'd at least get him off of our books.
That actually leads me to a good question. Before we go any forward, to our friend Punch in the chat, shout out to his wife Haley. Appreciate the love and support. But let me ask you guys this, because that is a good question. I was just assuming, and this is where I want to get your guys' input and the input of everyone in our chat room now. By the way, 211 viewers. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. Thank you for showing up for us. Let me.
Is my audio better now?
No,
you sound pretty much the same. You sound pretty much the same. Yeah, you sound pretty much the same. Yeah, but
am I low?
I mean, no, you're understandable. I mean, we can hear what you're saying. But yeah, so let me. I guess let me ask it this way, right? Now that we have Sam Darnold on the football team, we've already talked about how this kind of opens up. What we're going to do in the draft, right? But, I was just kind of assuming that, there's going to be a quarterback battle between Teddy Bridgewater and now Sam Darnold. But now, CK is saying he's hearing that we're trying to trade him. What do we do on the Sam Darnold front? I mean, on the Teddy Bridgewater front? What if we get to a situation where there just isn't a ton of teams that are clamoring to trade for Teddy Bridgewater? Do you think that we're even going to be able to trade him? And if we did, what are we even going to get for Teddy Bridgewater?
Nothing. You're not going to get anything for him.
We're going to lose something.
The only thing that I guess could be heartening about the whole situation, Cody, is that everybody knew the Jets were going to be trading Sam Darnold, and somehow they still got something. So I guess maybe you could say, maybe you have to wait. What about this? I don't know how uncomfortable that room would be, but what if you kept him on the team and he was your backup? And what's if something happened to Sam Darnold, at least you have a guy that's familiar with the team. Or what happens if you wait long enough and another team gets an injury at quarterback somewhere halfway through the season? That's our only hope. And then you trade him. I almost feel like if you offload, the quicker you offload him, the less he'll be worth. And really, will it save you much money? Because a lot of his money was guaranteed. And so you're still going to have to pay a lot this year, even if you trade him. When you trade him, you still pay that guaranteed money.
Yeah. No.
So by the way, Keith Sanderveer, forgive me if I butcher your last name. He said Sam never had a quarterback coach in his first 3 seasons, which is crazy to me. That's weird that they didn't have.
It was Gase. It was just Gase, like being trying to be
yeah, but the Gase, and the problem with the whole Gase thing is his only claim to fame was that he was a quarterback coach for incredible quarterbacks who were good quarterbacks. Yeah,
like Peyton Manning was like made Adam Gase's entire career just by being attached to it.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, right now we can hope that there is an option for resurgence for Sam Darnold. Again, my biggest concern is what is his ceiling. I think, and when you look at it in the context, like Cody, you talked about, is we're not giving a tremendous amount up. Do I wish we wouldn't have given 3 picks, including a second rounder? Yes, I do wish we wouldn't have gone with the second rounder. Because you like I said, the value of a second rounder is still more likely to start than a 4th or 6th rounder or 3rd rounder, right? Not impossible, but more likely to. But the reality is, I think that when you look at the fact that we are and now Atlanta is saying, like, they have articles out about how Justin Fields is going to be a good fit for them. Like, obviously it's their media team, so whether or not they're going to take him is completely, up in the air. But we already know that at least we can ascertain that 4 of the top 5 quarterbacks are going to be off the board, hands down, when we go up there at the 8th pick, right? And so now you've just got to either hope, if you didn't go make this move, you've got to either hope that it's not Mac Jones there at the 5th and that it's Trey Lance or Justin Fields, or you're going to have to do something else that makes this a much more high, you're going to have to give away a lot more to trade up in the draft than what we got. And are you going to get more out of somebody that is still unproven just as much as Darnold is? You can sit here and say he's had an opportunity, but you and I both know his offensive line has been garbage. He hasn't had weapons. You can sit there and say Robbie Anderson, but even when you watch the good plays to Robbie Anderson, he has barely any time to get the ball down the field. And so you can't even put that all on him that he's not able to make those completions and make Robbie Anderson look good. So I don't think he's had real honest a good offense that was setting him up for success, and they don't have a great defense either. So he's always had to basically play. And a lot of people, if you mentioned it, Cody, there's the question about whether the stupid moments are because he has to feel like he has to carry the team, because when you're behind, you have to do that. The thing that's different is at least he's trying to bring his team back, whereas Teddy Bridgewater on a 3rd and 15 down by 2 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes of the game is going to check it down because it's an easier pass. That's the difference. Right.
Sam Darnold is now kind of infamous for his Monday Night Football, I'm seeing ghosts, when he was mic'd up, when he probably shouldn't have been. But the bell.
Oh, that's right. That's exactly what he said. And you know what? And God bless him. He should have been. Yeah, I got a couple of points I want to make real quick, Cody. Is number one is to what CK said, is that Sam Darnold is an example of the immense amount of pressure we put on top round quarterbacks, right? And what this means is that there's very few guys that can walk into a situation with limited college experience into a dumpster fire and persevere. Some guys can. We see it every now and then. But even the ones who do really well, look at Patrick Mahomes. He kind of walked into a fantastic situation. It is very rare that we see a guy go onto a terrible team and that kind of weather the storm. In so many cases, we could go down the list. Go look at all the Carr brothers or all of this, right? Is that these people have been somewhat adequate, but the amount of that was asked upon them was insane. So I do think that's an important point to note with Darnold. Like, maybe we are a little too quick to write people off in a win down league. But I do want to return to the draft question quickly, Cody. And my thing about this trade that really, I think this trade can unite Carolina Panther fans right now, right? There has been a civil war going on between people who think that you must get a quarterback in the draft, and then versus the people that say there's no way that will work and we need to build another way. This gives us an opportunity to do what we needed to do so badly and for so long. And what we have been saying, again, build that wall, right? And now we can. Now we can. You know what? Is now if we draft a left tackle at 8 on draft night, you're going to say, we needed to do this. And I'm going to say it, and we're all going to be fine with it. Instead of us all flipping out over the lack of the glass is half full or half empty or whatever it is, there's no future for the Carolina Panthers. This is a kind of a way to do it down the middle of the road.
It is. And, you know, someone pointed out in our chat room earlier, too, you know, you think about somebody like Drew Brees, who started his career with the San Diego Chargers, and then later on, when he was paired with an offensive guru like a Sean Payton, you were able to see the full dearth of his potential and what he was able to do. And I think a lot of people are kind of making that comparison also. And that now, if you're able to put him in a situation where he can thrive and put him with the weapons and with the protection, then all of a sudden you're looking at a different player. And, you know, people who are on Twitter, they've seen the clips go around. There are times when Sam Darnold will make throws like moving to his left, turning back to his right, and throwing back across his body and throwing a dart downfield.
Yeah,
dissecting double coverage. Yeah, and there are moments when he does shine really bright. And I think looking at that potential and what Joe Brady has shown his capability to do, one with the Saints and then with LSU, and turning Joe Burrow into the first pick in the draft, I really do think a lot of people in the Panthers are looking at this as the potential to rejuvenate his career for the better forever. And
let's not forget Christian McCaffrey returning to this team, and a guy who is the best running back in the league, right? Everybody wants it's the flavor of the week, and I know that Derrick Henry is a monster. He is the John Henry or Paul Bunyan or whatever the right example is for a running back in the sledgehammer. I think that's Paul Henry. And look, I love me some, who's the guy from the Saints? I don't know why it's escaping me right now.
Who the
running back? That's just like Christian, the black.
Oh, Kamara, Alvin Kamara.
Thank you, Alvin Kamara. I love him too. I think he's sensational. So I'll listen to all of those discussions. But we know that Christian McCaffrey is special. So imagine this: is not only are you getting a quarterback that gives you kind of this upside, you are marrying him into a situation that's better than one he's seen ever before. There's more talent on this Carolina Panthers offense right now than there's been on any Jets team that he's been on.
True, 100%. And by the way, Humble Flip No Fool says, Cody, you always screaming arm talent. Is it there or not? And look, I'm here to tell you, man, that it is. I think, listen, there's a ton of Jets fans in our chat room right now talking to us. And shout out to you guys. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with us. You know, a lot of those Jets fans will tell you, one, but not only just about the kind of person that Sam Darnold is, but like he has never been in a situation in which he could thrive. And I'm willing to bet this about Sam Darnold. And Tony, I've said this on our podcast. Teddy Bridgewater, we say, you know, he didn't have the arm talent to make the throws down the football field. Well, no, I say it's even worse than that. Teddy Bridgewater didn't have the balls to throw the football down the field when it mattered, when he had DJ Moore wide open down the sideline on go routes. And, you know, Sam Darnold, knowing everything that has been said about him, oh, he's a bust, he's a wash. Oh, yeah, Zach Wilson, way better than Sam Darnold. You know, he has had to hear, I don't know to what degree he's on social media. In fact, I think he's kind of off social media. Yeah. But just the fact that man is going to have a chip on his shoulder. And I will bet you anything that Sam Darnold is not going to be afraid to take the chances that Bridgewater outright refused to take last year.
Well, you are nailing it, Cody, and I'll tell you this, is that one of the things that I would almost rather have a quarterback that is willing to take more chances than a guy who's afraid to pull the trigger. And we saw that under Jimmy Clausen. Jimmy Clausen was just, you want to talk about a guy seeing ghosts. He didn't know what to do, so he just checked it down every down. Teddy Bridgewater is a combination of an inability to physically do it, right? He knows he can't just rifle it in, so he plays cautiously because of that. And there is a temperament there, too. He takes the safe option so many times, and I think he's aware of his physical limitations. So, yes, Darnold comes with a ton of interceptions. He does. But at least to me, that tells you the guy's willing to take a chance and push the ball downfield. And we've seen a team that was scared to do that. And it's hard. And this is going to open up so many things for Joe Brady in the offense. It's going to open up things for Christian McCaffrey, I think. And the last point I'm going to make is my buddy Scott Mason from Play Like a Jet is coming on the podcast tomorrow, hopefully. I hope I'm going to nail down the time. And what I think he is going to ultimately tell us, right, when it comes to Sam Darnold, is that, I mean, is that pushing the ball down the field is going to help. It has to help. Oh, no, this was the point I was going to make. I forgot. It escaped me while I just brought up his name. He said this, is that if Sam Darnold goes to the Carolina Panthers and rejuvenates his career, go ahead and mark it in the books that Joe Brady's going to be a head coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, without question.
Yeah. And that's our saving grace, that Joe Brady didn't leave us this year. Is that he didn't take the job at the Chargers or the Falcons or any other of the teams that were, in the running to hire their next Sean McVay. I mean, that's, kind of what people are putting Joe Brady on that trajectory of. That is that young offensive wonderkind. And then, look, here's another bold prediction. DJ Moore is about to be viewed. Listen, if Sam Darnold can just fucking be good and distribute the ball well and be accurate down the field and be on time, dude, I'm telling you, the NFL is going to see DJ Moore as a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. I maintain that it was the same thing with DeAndre Hopkins. No one considered DeAndre Hopkins a top talent at wide receiver until he had Deshaun Watson consistently throwing him the football. And he was making plays even before that. DJ Moore has damn near been a 1,000-yard receiver every year here in Carolina. I mean, listen, this has the potential to take our offense to the next level if Sam can be the best version of himself. And I think that's what the Carolina Panthers are betting on big right now. And, it's funny, guys, because as we've sat here and talked about this, I'm way more positive and higher on this move than I was even coming into this, right?
I told you on the show last week, I would not be mad if this happened.
Yeah.
I would not be mad if this happened. And I want to ask you, Cody, what do we do now? Is there any chance that you've seen people in the chat talking about Kyle Pitts to the Panthers at 8? They've met with him several times. I don't know if Pitts makes it there. In fact, I was just dreaming up an article for the website about how if Atlanta takes Kyle Pitts, if they're allured by Kyle Pitts, that could change the entire dynamic of what we thought was going to happen in those top picks. But how would you feel if Carolina went offensive and aggressive and added a piece on offense in this top 10 and then started looking at the offensive lines in round, 2, 3, and can you? I almost think it would be, at first, it sounded ludicrous to me. Right now, maybe if the top tackle is there, you got to do it. But if the top tackle is gone, and maybe you should, or maybe even the top 2, which I don't know if that's going to happen, maybe you should think about this. It's like we just invested so much on the defense last year. We have this quarterback we're kind of stuck with for 2 years. The goal is not to be bad next year now.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe you do. Maybe you try to bring in a game changer. And my question is, who is that? Is it Kyle Pitts at 8? Could he make it? Or should we start thinking about the Waddle guy or tell me the receivers that we should be thinking of? Or is that premature given the talent we already got there?
Well, now that the quarterback is off the board for us, and if Atlanta is indeed willing to trade down, if an unprecedented moment happened where 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks, dude, now that's beneficial to us because it means that a ton of really, really good football players are going to be bumped down to us, including the likes of the Heisman Trophy winner Devonta Smith, wide receiver from Alabama, who, in my opinion, is the number one wide receiver in this year's draft class. A lot of people like Jamar Chase, and they kind of think that he'll reunite with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati with the 5th pick. But I'm telling you, man, you even have players like Jalen Waddle, who you mentioned, who has an unprecedented ability to take the top off the defense. I compare him very similar to what Henry Ruggs was able to do last year for Alabama. I mean, the dude he probably runs a 4.2. And dude, he will make you miss in space. I mean, he will come into the NFL as one of the fastest receivers in the NFL, bar none. My problem with that, though, is, again, knowing that we have to undergo this task of rejuvenating a player who has a ton of, when he was seeing ghosts, he was under pressure all night from 0 blitzes from Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Like, they were just pressuring him left and right. If you're really serious about rejuvenating Sam Darnold's career and getting the most out of him, I really think it's a disservice to not go offensive line, especially if Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater are sitting there on the board. I mean, knowing that we don't have a lot of long-term depth on the offensive line anyway, it's time to build that wall, man. Build an offensive line and protect your quarterback. I think DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Christian McCaffrey by themselves is an incredible group of weapons. And there's going to be players that are available in the later rounds, like Amari Rodgers from Clemson, that's going to be there maybe in the 3rd or 4th round, or Shi Smith out of South Carolina. I just think the premium positions, which right now, in my opinion, is offensive line and cornerback, you have to take care of those if you have a stud, a game changer that lands to you at number 8.
I think you're right. Is there any chance that the Carolina Panthers become a trade destination for a team at 8?
Sure. I mean, I don't know. What's the scenario looking like if, man, could you imagine? Okay, how would we feel? How would Panther fans feel if we have Sam Darnold and Trey Lance or Justin Fields, for whatever reason, does end up falling to us? Man, what a crazy fucking thing that would be.
What a crusher that would be.
Dude, no. It wouldn't be a crusher at all. Here's the thing is, like, Sam Darnold still is going to have a trade value if we decided to move on from him for whatever reason. Number one, he costs nothing this year, right? Like, as far as this is his 4th year in the league, he's not going to be a tremendous hit on the I mean, it's not great, but he's not going to be a ridiculous hit on our cap. It's basically, we should definitely take advantage of this year with Sam Darnold regardless, but we can still trade him. And then we can see what we have if we ended up picking a quarterback. I think, in my personal opinion, if Trey Lance or Justin Field is there at 8, we trade back and let somebody else take it. And then we ask the farm for it, because if they're wanting him, they want him bad, right? Because they need a quarterback. And I think they'd be willing to give us back more than what we gave up for Sam Darnold to move back, and hopefully not too far back either.
It's not happening. You know what? Why are we even talking about it, Curry? Because it ain't happening.
Well, that's the reason. The only reason I brought it up is because you said, "Are we going to be a trade destination for people moving up?" And I would say yes, if one of those quarterbacks does indeed fall to us, and we know that we've hitched our wagon to Sam Darnold.
That's the only way.
Yeah. Because really, I mean, I think the whole point of this is that we can sit there with a top 10 pick and not have to worry about moving up or down. We're going to have a top 10 blue chip player.
Just pick a tackle and move on.
Yeah,
pick a tackle and move on, folks. Cam Irvin is not the solution for us going forward. So we need a left tackle. Let's not overcomplicate it. Just take the damn offensive tackle and then try to figure out what you're going to do in the second to make this team better.
Yeah, Humble Flip No Fool says Scott Fitterer just went live. Yeah, give us some cliff notes, man. Listen, just knowing that we have a top 10 pick We don't have to do anything now. We know that we're guaranteed to either get the bet one of our two favorite cornerback prospects in the draft, which is more than likely going to be either Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn, which I'm a J.C. Horn fan. Check out the content, the film room that we did on this channel. And, I really like Patrick Surtain as well. But also knowing that you're going to have a bookend left tackle that you're going to be able to plug and play, it's definitely going to be either of Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater. And both of those guys are grading out incredibly high for me. I mean,
well, what happens is, Cody, there is a scenario where Cincinnati takes Sewell and then Detroit takes a left tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit isn't in a market for that. Shouldn't they be saying something similar around Sam Darnold? And I don't know the details of what their offensive line was last year, but if I remember correctly, Matthew Stafford didn't have the most protection in that game that we played against.
This episode is brought to you by the NBA. Witness mind-bending competition on the biggest stage between the best players in the world, a place where legends are made. It's impossible jumps that seem to freeze in midair, and spectacular steals that you didn't see coming. It's that one play that lasts seconds that you will talk about for the rest of your life. And let's face it, it's the unpredictability of it all, never knowing when the next big moment will happen. Huge wins and crushed dreams. It's the drama of it all. You just can't make this stuff up. That's the NBA. That's game. The NBA playoffs are happening right now. Don't miss all the action.
Yeah. So, and even when you mentioned that, the offensive tackles, even if they go ahead of us, again, there are going to be players that are going to bump down to us. So listen, these are names that are in contention for us, right? Michael Parsons, Patrick Surtain, J.C. Horn, Caleb Farley has kind of fallen because of his injuries. But and
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Kyle Pitts as a receiving weapon. Again, I'm just being honest. I'm not very high on the man as a blocker. I kind of think it's a nil point though because no one's really going to use him as a blocker. Yeah. But dude, Kyle Pitts, man, we have been missing that nimble, big-bodied receiver that can go up and make a play in the end zone and can get up above the heads of the defenders and safeties and come down with the football. And the Panthers just haven't had that forever. It's what we thought we had.
He's the only offensive skill player I would want, Cody, at this spot. And it would be just like you described, right? If these tackles went out. The reason I would be okay with the Pitt addition is I think he would be easily incorporated into the offense. Yeah. Right? You go and you get a receiver. Look, we got Robbie Anderson. We got DJ Moore. How are we going to try to get them reps? We don't, is that the rookie? We got to give the rookie all of this. At least, you know what? We have a need at tight end. Like, hey, you go stand right there, and we're going to teach you what to do in this system.
Yeah.
That's the only skill player I think I would be interested in when it comes to the offense. And I got to tell you, it takes a lot for Tony Dunn to say that. Because what do I not like?
Tight ends in
the first round. Tight ends in the first round. Oh, my God.
Yeah, CK, jump in on this one, man. I'm again, we know now that this puts us in a position to just draft a blue chip player in the top 10. Let's go back to that other scenario where the quarterbacks fall, though, because you're like, without a doubt, and I kind of want to tackle this while we have all the people watching and while we're, talking about this. Let's just say, let's throw out this hypothetical so that way we can discuss it in case it should happen and get our feelings about it. If we have Sam Darnold and one of the quarterbacks does fall to us, so let's just say Trey Lance does fall to the 8th pick in the draft, does this move now mean that quarterback is 100% off of the board for us? I'm asking all of you and everyone in the chat. Yes. Is quarterback a done deal in the top 10, no matter what, no matter how the board falls?
Yes. because we know the only two quarterbacks in this draft that you can confidently say are able to lead a team to be elite in this league. You can say with confidence is Trevor Lawrence, and a slight, and there's still question marks about Zach Wilson, but he has a better chance than all the other three quarterbacks that are in the top five, right? Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones all have a lot of question marks surrounding them. So I think right now, yes, I think we've got somebody who has equally the same amount of question marks, and he has equally the same amount of upside if he is able to actually get his confidence back. So I think we're 100% out of the quarterback race. I don't think we were ever going to be drafting a quarterback at 8 if we weren't able to get Trevor Lawrence or Justin or Zach Wilson. It was always going to be trade for Watson, trade for Seattle, trade for an established QB, or nothing. And that's what I think they tried to do here with Sam Darnold.
Chuck from Elizabeth City says, if Lance is there, someone would trade us a king's ransom in order to pick him. And I think that's kind of the mindset here. And that's why people are, really thinking that we could be a potential trade partner now. I mean, what if, all the talk has been that the 49ers are going to pick Mac Jones at number 3.
It's a lie. It's a smokescreen.
I believe that Shanahan does like him, though.
Oh, shush. I
really do.
I've heard this. Is Dan Patrick on, I think it was Dan Patrick that was talking about this, I heard, or God, maybe it was Josh Norris. Ultimately, is that Shanahan was interested in Mac Jones, but the upper office in John Lynch, it was Dan Patrick, but the upper office with John Lynch was more interested in the upside of a guy like Lance or Fields. I believe it's all smoke, man, is that Kyle Shanahan ran a crazy awesome offense with RG3, man. You going to try to tell me that a guy who predicates his entire offense around a running attack is not interested in a quarterback that can run the actual ball? Don't believe it for a second, right? Is that they traded up. That's the only thing. That's the only way that is going to make a Trey Lance or Justin Fields fall to 8 is if the 49ers are ridiculous enough to pick Mac Jones at 3. And if they traded all of that to get a guy that they could have maybe gotten at 10 before, then shame on them. So I believe it's a moot point, Cody. I think there's going to be 4 quarterbacks that go before 7, before the Carolina Panthers pick, and I don't think any of those will be named Mac Jones. I think it's Lawrence, Wilson, and then Fields and Lance, or you flip them around, and then the real question mark is it Atlanta picking them, or is it someone trading into the Atlanta spot? Because who's after that? Cincinnati, okay, they're going to take a tackle. Who's next? Who's at 6? Is that the Dolphins?
No, the 6 is now. Yeah, 6 is the Dolphins.
Okay, so maybe you're right. Maybe there's only 3 that go there.
So, real quick, again, I'm just kind of reporting on what I'm seeing in the chat room for people that are updating me. Scott Federer wouldn't rule out drafting a quarterback, even going on to say, I don't think you can have enough good quarterbacks. And man, that's kind of crazy to me, man, because it's like it says
He's
to me
that so someone will trade for him or something, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't saying that for me.
Either that or this is just a super expensive insurance policy. Like, maybe we do want a quarterback to fall to us. Maybe they are in love with Trey Lance, but instead of kicking the can down the road and having some team jump ahead of you for your backup plan in the forms of Sam Darnold, maybe they have the mindset of, you know what, let's get this out the way. Let's make sure that without a shadow of a doubt, we have a replacement for Teddy Bridgewater on the roster in Sam Darnold, that we know that we're going to be able to try and rejuvenate and try and make his career better here in Carolina. But on the off chance that one of our guys falls to us that we like at the quarterback position, maybe they do still take him. And listen, if that happens, I'm not going to necessarily be mad at that either, because it just means that we're going to have a quarterback that definitely isn't afraid to throw the fucking football downfield. And that's what Panthers have been wanting for years.
It's going to make for an awkward quarterback's room, though, if we draft just Trey Lance, we bring in Sam Darnold, and here is Teddy Bridgewater, now assistant to Joe Brady, teaching the offense.
Poor Sam, dude, huh? Poor Sam.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the case.
I mean, it just would be, because Sam Darnold, you got to think he's excited about this. Get out of the toxic environment that is New York and always has been New York, right, when it comes to the Jets. I mean, they have been looking. Look, I mean, it's a wonder Sanchez didn't kill himself in there during that time. If they wouldn't have made that one playoff run where they made the AFC Championship, I think he might have offed himself. They were mean. I mean, the butt fumble, I thought, oh, this guy is going to be done in New York. Like, they are going to roast him forever. It's a lot of pressure and stress on those guys. And you guys, and Sam Darnold is probably like, Jesus Christ, if you can see Adam Gase, look at what I'm working with here.
Yeah.
So he's got to be excited about that fresh leaf. Man, on draft night, imagine his heart, his stomach, his face if they said the Carolina Panthers select Trey Lance. He's like, oh, fuck.
Bro, and they're not wrong in the chat. This made the draft that much more exciting, right? We're going to be coming in with no idea of what they're doing. Like, if a quarterback was there that we like at 8, we're assuming they're taking a quarterback. Well, there isn't going to be much question marks around that at all. But like right now, we could do anything. Like draft night, the show. By the way, all 285 you people in here that are watching, showing this love to us, I appreciate that. We will be doing a live draft show, so be sure to show up there. But we're also here every Tuesday night, and be sure to hit that like button. Anyway, yeah, but the draft is going to be so much more interesting. You're absolutely right.
And Scott Fitter dropping some more bombs on us. We're going to find, this is pertaining to Teddy Bridgewater. We're going to find the right place for him, whether it's here or someplace else. And listen, I maintain that it never took a rocket scientist to see that Teddy Bridgewater limited this offense.
Yeah.
It was apparent to us. It was apparent to us, and it was apparent to every it was apparent to every non-Teddy Bridgewater nut hugger that just wanted to defend him just because it was the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Like on this podcast, we got so much shit at the start of the season for saying that none of us believed that Teddy Bridgewater was going to be able to even replicate what he did with New Orleans, because New Orleans had the better offensive line, they had the better receivers, they had the better head coach to call the plays up. He just, bottom line, was in a better situation for him to succeed. He was not able to do that.
He barely did anything.
Yeah,
he won one game in the fourth quarter for them, I believe. But they would win those games with like 128 yards passing yards. And it was like it's kind of reminiscent of who's the one guy you love from the Mormon school that's with the Saints?
Oh, Taysom Hill.
Yeah. It's you know what is that when Drew Brees was out, he came in and won a couple of games too, and it wasn't nothing special, right? So it was apparent to the Carolina Panthers. That's a tough comment right there. That means this is we're going to find the right. I mean, it could be at Target that we find your place, Teddy Bridgewater. I just don't think that anybody is going to give us anything for Teddy Bridgewater. We might have just taken our medicine and said, this sucks, we're cutting you.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to, his cap space, I mean, the amount of cap that he takes might as well keep him on as a backup in case something goes crazy, right? Because that is the reality that is Teddy Bridgewater. He is a very good backup, but I don't see him being a starter in this league, right? And so I don't think with the hit that he has, I don't think we cut him. I think he stays and he's backing up Sam Darnold, or they give Sam Darnold an entire year to learn the offense. Without maybe they have him behind Teddy Bridgewater, which I know none of us like that. Nobody likes that, but that could be what happens if there is no suitors. I mean, let's be honest.
No.
Are we going to be keeping Teddy Bridgewater on this roster? We're hoping not. But
I mean, listen, our general manager point blank just told the fucking world we're looking to kick this dude to the fucking curb, man.
He's
Listen,
gone. He's gone.
I think
That even means this. I think that statement, Cody, means that he can't. That we really just know that he can't be part of the team this year.
Yeah, I like this comment from Dirty Meatball. It says the way Teddy limited the Panthers' offense is how Adam Gase limited Sam Darnold.
I love that.
Panthers trending up, no doubt. And I mean, this is what the optimism is right now, that the Panthers have a guy and we're in a good situation to rejuvenate his career and make something of him, And again, not only am I feeling better about Sam, the player, and what he might be able to do with us, with Joe Brady and DJ Moore and McCaffrey and a rebuilt offensive line, but it's also the fact that now our draft strategy is BPA, baby, best player available. And it sounds like no matter what the position is,
even quarterback,
we're in position to literally do whatever the hell we want. Just sit back at number 8 and chill and just let the board fall to us. Or if somebody's willing to move up for a metric fuck ton of picks, then you know what? We can back up a little bit and continue to build, maybe add another tight end or another receiver that we wouldn't have been able to add otherwise. It opens up the doors of possibilities.
I firmly believe this is going to be one of the most exciting drafts in NFL history. Yeah. And I think it's because of the quarterback position dominates the headlines. It dominates teams. And there's a reason they get paid so much and this and that, right? We all see that the elite quarterback is necessary for football to be as exciting as it is. The NFL as a whole benefits when quarterback play is exceptional, right? Is that there was a sort of fear at one point was how are you going to replace the excitement that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Drew Brees, 3 historically great players, brought for the last 20 years to football? There was a fear at a moment of what's going to happen with the changing of the guard? And, then you get Patrick Mahomes. You had Cam before that, excitement. So there's guys that have come in and done it. So we know the quarterback is just so essentially important. And that's going to make this draft so fun because the common NFL fan, whether you tune in every week on YouTube to the C3 Panthers podcast Tuesday night, to the person that just looks on draft night a couple of days after the draft, and when the season kicks off, you're going to know the names in this top 10, right? Yeah. Like my mother might even know some of the names in this top 10 when she hears them. And we're talking the entire top 10 being recognizable almost. That is going to make some awesome storylines and intrigue going into this draft.
Yeah.
Eric Erickson, we absolutely read the comments. We love your comments and keep them rolling. Man, we have 286 people in the chat. We have crushed 2,000 subscribers finally. So listen, if you like the content that we provide, listen, if you haven't been able to tell yet, we love us some Carolina Panthers, dude. We made some time to come up and talk here because we had to talk about this. We've been talking about quarterback for months now. Yeah, man, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We talk about the Carolina Panthers every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Sometimes we talk too long, but you know what? You'll never be without us because we go every Tuesday night all year round. We don't take time off in the off season. We're always about some Carolina Panthers and some Carolina Panther news, and we're trying to find ways to upgrade the show all the time. So if you like the content, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Tony, man, this is I still can't even believe that we're talking about this almost. That it happened.
I was just thinking yesterday when I woke up, or maybe it was even this morning. I think it was this morning. I was like, man, it's time. I need some news. I need something to think about. So you either be mad about, to be excited about. It was last week was arguably the quietest week you're going to have in the NFL. I mean, look, there were no stories last week, and so thank you for bringing us back to life.
Can we, how are we just all missing the most important storyline of all of this? Are we not looking forward to the Darnold to Arnold connection?
Oh, I saw somebody in the comments say that. It's the
Darnold to Darnold. Darnold to D Arnold.
I'm looking forward to this is when the Carolina Panthers trade back at 8 and their trade partner is the New York Jets.
Wow.
Man, and we'll be like this. You owe us a lot. We gave you a lot for Sam Darnold, so come correct.
100%, man. A lot of guys are talking about Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater in the chat. I did want to pinpoint this other comment if I can find it here. This is it. Brandon Anderson says, if anything, this at least keeps Panther fans excited and tuned in like we were when we picked up Teddy last year. I wasn't necessarily excited when we picked up Teddy last year, but one of the things I can definitely say is this, Tony. One of the good things about today is there was a real scenario in which we weren't able to secure the quarterback via draft or trade, and that we were just going to have to go with whatever was available and kind of be forced to go best player available when neither the fans nor the organization wanted to start another year with Teddy Bridgewater under center. Now it really changes everything because now
that would have been the worst season ever in the history of our organization.
The worst at a time.
This would have been a miserable show.
And it's at a time when the morale of Panther fans really has never been lower. Because really, I mean, going from, Cam Newton coming off a ton of injuries, then how they let him go, then Teddy Bridgewater being so resounding of a disappointment. Like the Panthers needed something to hold on to for this next season, or else it was going to be another long year where a lot of the fans would be hoping that we were going to lose anyway because they wanted to draft a quarterback that year because we weren't able to do it this year. Now it gives us an opportunity to not only go best player available, but now we have hopes on what the Panthers are going to do next year, no matter who we come away with. We are going to be able to see Scott Fitterer have his first full draft where he doesn't have to be forced into picking one position over the other. They can let the board fall to them and build around a quarterback or draft a quarterback should they have the chance. It opens up so many possibilities for us. There's no way that I'm not excited for the 2021 NFL season.
I have a question for you, and that is, what does this tell us about the attitudes and temperature or I don't know how I'm trying to phrase it, perspective of David Tepper and Matt Rule about what they're trying to do in the near future versus the long term? I understand that they brought Matt Rule, they gave him a long-term deal, and they said that this isn't going to be built in a day. But we saw mounting frustration from David Tepper, right? And it was funneled to the quarterback position. I would argue that Matt Rule even looked frustrated at the end of the GM process and some things as he looked, I don't know how to read. I'm trying to read body language and stuff.
Right.
But one other caveat is we tried to trade for Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
What this tells me is that this team doesn't want to suffer through another year of
rebuild.
And even maybe. And I've been talking with Andy Massey a lot on Twitter and in the Discord and different things with different people. He kept saying, and Bill Vogt has said that he didn't think that the Panthers were high enough on guys outside of Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson to actually trade up for. So if that argument does ring true, is the idea is you trade up for that and it's still a timeline of where you think it's really going to work out. It seems like the Panthers wanted a more accelerated timeline with bringing in potentially Matt Stafford, now with a Sam Darnold. What do you think this tells us that David Tepper and Matt Rule think about this team at this point?
I think they're in a win now mode, in my opinion.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick. This has been a very exciting offseason for the Carolina Panthers. And the only thing that kept us from saying that was the quarterback funk we were in.
Yeah, you know what it tells me? That the Panthers were wanting to be able to go in this draft and take best player available and really not going into the kitchen hungry. And, knowing that we almost traded for Stafford. And, listen, if the Rams didn't come in and sweep Matthew Stafford away from us,
we would have had him.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford would be a Carolina Panther now. That was our first choice over everything.
Detroit would have had the 7th and the 8th pick.
Yeah, dude.
No, wait, maybe did they get the 7th pick? They might have gotten the 7th pick for the Rams.
No, they were.
The Rams were good last year.
Yeah, but my main point in saying that is that the Panthers, they weren't real. So, if we're not picking in the top 2, like you said, what Bill Vogt was mentioning, if we weren't in the running for Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence, then we weren't necessarily sold on the fact that Justin Fields or Trey Lance were to be able to come in and beat out Teddy Bridgewater right away. Now,
I have one problem with this, Cody. The only thing that I don't buy about the Bill Vogt talk, and the only thing that I am a little bit of kind of just hesitant, is what is up with the overly quick coronation of Zach Wilson as the consensus number 2? Is he really that far ahead of a Justin Fields? And I think that almost there is a little groupthink on this. And I would argue that these teams, if you're that in love with Zach Wilson, you're not doing your own due diligence and looking at these other perfect persons as well. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Zach Wilson, but look, he was even the team starter going into this season. I don't, if I'm correct. It's like he had an ascendancy that's very similar to Joe Burrow's. Nobody thought he was there, and all of a sudden he's the dude, right?
Yeah.
So I do have. I think, but I understand this is if there's. I almost think there's questions moving to 2. And if those guys, if Bill Vogt and them are right, what does that tell us about then what the San Francisco 49ers did? Are they misevaluating the 3rd pick?
I'm telling you, listen, you don't think that Matt Jones can go number 3? Keep in mind.
Not happening.
Keep in mind.
Not happening.
You say that, but this is the same NFL that saw Mitch Trubisky go ahead of Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes and saw Daniel Jones drafted in the top 10 when he didn't have anywhere near a first-round evaluation playing at Duke. So stranger things have happened, man.
So we think more highly of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan then.
Yes, definitely. To answer your question about Zach Wilson, listen, CK can kind of vouch for this. He joined me on that film room session that we did that you can check out on this channel right now. We did a film review breaking down Zach Wilson. And listen, man, his throws that he's able to make off platform and on the run and still be able to fit the ball in a tight window down the football field. I mean, it's really unprecedented. The film really does kind of speak for itself in that way. And listen, that's why if the Jets weren't sold on how good of a prospect Zach Wilson is, they're not going to get rid of their contingency plan and Sam Darnold, the guy that they've been grooming for the past 3 years, that they know that they have on a fifth round, drawing a blank here. The what's it called? The fifth round
option.
The fifth year option. They were in the position to do the same thing that the Panthers were, in that they could have rolled with Sam Darnold, put a better coach around them, which they did in Robert Saleh, rebuild the offensive line, get them some more weapons. And, that Jets team with a bunch of picks and a bunch of money, they wouldn't have been too far away from building a competitive football team. Yet even still, they were able to look at Zach Wilson and say, yeah, dude, this guy is everything you want from the quarterback position and then some. So I really don't blame them for deciding to sit back at number 2. I'm willing to bet that the 49ers or maybe even the Panthers attempted to trade up to number 2 to try and get him. And then the Jets just tell everybody, hey, bro, you can piss off. We're going to take our guy at number 2 because that's our player of the future.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was a part of this, and then it was like it started out as a phone call of what do we need to do to get the number 2 pick, and then they were like, we're not giving up the number 2 pick. All right, let's take Darnold. Like we'll take Darnold. That was our only option. I mean, they probably shot their shot knowing they probably weren't going to have a shot at getting that number 2 pick. But I mean, right now the good news, if you're a Panthers fan, is we have drafts to look forward to for the next 3 years. Right. Like if we had traded for the number 2 pick, we would have given up 3 first-round draft picks, including this year's, next year's, and the year after. It'd be nice for a good, for a Zach Wilson type player, but in all reality, we now have we don't have that risk of saying we gave up too much for a quarterback that can be mediocre, right? We've taken that risk off the table.
Gamble. This is a gamble, but it's not at the risky level that you were that the other would have been.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you this: does Teddy Bridgewater get traded?
No, I think they're going to try. The only way he gets traded is if we agree to eat part of his contract.
I think we do no matter what, because I think that what I learned this year with trades, because I thought that of these people moving around all of a sudden would open up the books, but the guaranteed money of Teddy Bridgewater's contract would still be paid by the Carolina Panthers. So they would only have to pick up his salary, for that year. Now, just mad shout out to my boy Jay Cryer. Love you, brother.
Yeah,
But yes, he's gone for anything. It's either. Will Grier. You think who has a better chance of being on this team next year, Will Grier or Teddy Bridgewater?
Will Grier.
Yeah, Will Grier, I think, has a better chance of being on the team next year than Teddy Bridgewater. But again, that's a mistake from the past, from Mario Herney's past mistakes that we're still paying for. The fact that he was never able to compete for the starting job. But my thing is this: do we really think that no one is going to want to trade at least a 3rd round pick for Teddy Bridgewater?
Not for his contract.
No. Name the team. Maybe Cincinnati if they're worried about Joe Burrow's recovery time. But who's the team? Didn't Pittsburgh sign Jameis?
Yeah, no. Jameis is still with New Orleans.
Who went there? Did anybody sign with Pittsburgh?
No, just Ben, I think. He's
still
up there.
I know that Ben took less money. So maybe maybe you're sitting there. But, you're really talking about a backup quarterback, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody's going to give a 3rd for Teddy Bridgewater. I would laugh if we got – I would be floored if we got more than a 5th.
The only way – here's the thing, and I could see a scenario where this exists even, is where we try to trade him. Nobody wants to trade for his contract, and, that's just to be honest about it. They're not going to give up a draft pick. So the only scenario I see is where they get an extra draft pick on top of him that's better than the draft pick we get in return. So we would trade him for a 6th round draft pick and have to give up a 4th round draft pick in the midst of it. So we would be losing on multiple.
A salary dump.
That's all that would be, is a salary dump. 100%.
Ugh. Man,
that contract just that's the contract is the most terrible part. It was such an overpay. It should have been a
1-year deal. It should have been a 1-year $25 million deal. Pay to play.
For every single person that tried to come in and say that Mario Herney was a changed man and he wasn't overpaying players anymore. Dude, it was such bullshit, man. We're not even going to be able to offload this guy this season because of the contract. I guarantee you some team.
Shame on Matt Rule, Joe Brady, and our owner
for letting it
happen. Allowing, yes. I don't want. If you got a drunk uncle and he's over there hitting on somebody's wife and he gets punched in the face, is it his fault? Yeah, but you knew it was his drunk uncle, your drunk uncle, that should have been reeled in.
Yeah, 100%. You're David Tepper. You're the owner. You're the guy with the brass balls on your table. Use those brass balls. And listen, I'm not going to come down too hard on them because I think that they use their brass balls. And listen, I said this on the podcast a few weeks ago that Sam Darnold being our break glass in case of emergency quarterback, that the Panthers needed to be in talks with the Jets, that we needed to inquire about the number 2 pick in the draft. And if they weren't willing to come off of it, we needed to be ahead of everyone else on the Sam Darnold trade. And that did take balls. It took balls to do it now. But, and I really want to, I said it before, but I want to drive home the point again. No matter what happens in the draft, we have reason to be excited about Panthers football next season.
Yes. You have a possibility of being better. My point that I want to make about David Tepper and these guys is I believe that Teddy Bridgewater was a miscalculation that's a count that everybody at the Carolina Panthers front office is responsible for, including Joe Brady, Matt Rule, David Tepper, Marty Herney. But if there's anything that is nice to see about what's happening here in this moment, is this. Someone told me this when they were talking about hiring people at a business. They said, be fast to fire, slow to hire. And that is, you don't rush a hire. You take your time and you get the right guy.
Yes.
But when you know somebody is fucking your shit up, cut bait. And so, you know what? The Carolina Panthers, despite making a mistake, are cutting bait and moving on.
Yeah. So there are still some people in our chat that are not very happy about the Sam Darnold pick. And I'm not going to come down on them because but before today, none of us were very high on Sam Darnold. So let's do this, right? Let's try and keep an open mind and let's be reasonable about some of our concerns, right? Okay, it's going to be a problem if we go into the season and we still see that Sam Darnold is having problems identifying coverages, having problems making checks at the line, identifying blitzes, being able to make sure his offensive line can pick up those blitzes, knowing his timing has been off in New York. There are times when he would just throw a ball right into double coverage and just either he didn't know where the play was supposed to go, or the receiver ran the wrong route, or man just straight up said, fuck it, I'm going to throw it down there and hope something good happens, Yeah. And there was a lot of that on his film. So what do we say to the people who are like, look, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. I've seen the man play on film. Talk about Adam Gase all you want. But at the end of the day, the man didn't. The man made a bunch of bad decisions and didn't play well and threw a ton of bad footballs into double coverage. What do we say to those people? I know what I say, but what do y'all say?
I say the same thing that we said last year about Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, like when we signed Teddy Bridgewater, there was a lot of positives that came along with it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think that it's unfortunate to, make the assumption immediately that we're not going to be able to be successful with Sam Darnold. But I also understand the hesitation because it wasn't until today that we made the decision, we'll give him a shot, right? We want him on the team. And it's a lot of bias, right? Because he's a Panther now. We have to be kind of positive. Last year, we had to be somewhat positive with Teddy Bridgewater. So I think we're in the same boat. We've got to try. We've got to at least see what he has in the tank. The difference here is Teddy Bridgewater was a 32 overall pick. Sam Darnold was a number 3 overall pick. Teddy Bridgewater didn't even have the same quality of, and that's saying something. He didn't have the numbers that Sam Darnold had in his best year, except for maybe this year. He might have done some things, but that's, again, relative if you want to look at it from that perspective. But I think you've got to have some optimism because you realize that there was a guy who was in an organization that was inept. His confidence was already broken, and they did nothing to help him. Like he had no quarterbacks coach for 3 years, is what we just read. Right? He had nobody to teach him how to do this. He is 23. He's almost 24. He is younger than Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow, you guys got to keep in mind until he got the right coaching, he wasn't looked at as a quality quarterback. He was looked at like a 5th or 6th round quarterback.
Maybe
even undrafted.
Even at that, right? And to piggyback off of that a little bit before we pass the mic to Tony, shout out to CJA. Says we keep mentioning Joe Brady. Let's not forget we got a damn good quarterback coach this offseason who coached up Matthew Stafford and Deshaun Watson. I trust he can work with Donald. I think that's a great point too, especially when you hear Jets fans come in here and saying that the man never had a quarterback coach. It was just Adam Gase teaching him terrible bullshit the whole way. So, so Tony, let me ask you, what would you say to those fans that are still like, no, this doesn't do shit for us. He's an inaccurate quarterback, takes too many chances. What would you say to someone with those criticisms and concerns?
All right, so my first question.
This episode is brought to you by Philips One by Sonicare. One up your brushing with Philips One. This one is the ideal one for those who are still using an old-school manual toothbrush. To all those people, it's time to take your brushing one level up. The solution is a simple one. It's the perfect timing one. It's the long-lasting battery-powered or USB rechargeable one. That comes in multiple colors to match you one. The one with a subscription that delivers new brush heads for just $5. Your teeth deserve this one. Philips One by Sonicare. One up your brushing. Learn more at philips.com/one. That's philips.com/ONE.
45 touchdowns in his career so far. Is that right?
You were cutting out on that, but I think you said someone.
Can you hear me now? Somebody was trying to call me.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, somebody was actually trying to call me. I hope it wasn't the internet service provider asking to come fix it at 617. I doubt it. How many career touchdowns has he thrown? 45, I think. I would almost say there might be a chance that he has just as many career touchdowns as Teddy Bridgewater. And I mean, look, if Teddy threw 15 last year and it was his most, he had 14 in his best season ever. You're at 30 there. He was hurt a bunch of years. I would be, how many career touchdowns does Teddy Bridgewater? Someone look it up in the chat. The second thing is this, I think is at very worst, it's a lateral move at worst, right? At worst, your quarterback is holding you back still, right? The Carolina Panthers found a way, though, to get more than 4 wins last year with Teddy Bridgewater. So we've seen what 4 wins is. And I think this gives you an opportunity for a higher upside. And I love the idea that now we don't have to be forced and painted into a corner in the draft. Dave Gettleman continued, he always said this, is that you use free agency to set up the draft. So you don't have to draft for need and you don't feel comfortable about it. The worst thing, and this is why people didn't want the Panthers to trade Cody, is because they just thought, man, you're forcing the issue so much. This gives you an opportunity to slow play it. You know what? All right, so if we get 4 fucking wins and we know it's Sam Darnold, guess what? Now we're going to have a bunch of money next year when free agency comes around. I think we're for the first time ever, we're kind of expected to be one of those teams that we've always envied. There would be an opportunity to potentially go get a free agent like Russell Wilson or do something for Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if they will be free agents that year. Or, hey, maybe you're thinking about it in the draft. I think that the age, the upside, and if you're Sam Darnold, a team voted for you.
Yeah.
A girl called you up and said, I want to go on a date with you when you've been turned down and made fun of by people for the last 2 years. Yeah. So I think this is that, I think the upside on this is far more than it could have ever been with Teddy Bridgewater. And some people may think that is just completely rose-colored glasses. But I think that the ceiling on Teddy Bridgewater was the problem.
Yeah. Listen, I agree with just about everything that you just said. I wanted to highlight this comment in the chat because I think that this was a fantastic point that we haven't even mentioned yet. We definitely got this year's Ryan Tannehill that has previous chemistry with Robbie. And that's a player that we haven't mentioned yet that's very relevant to this situation because the Ryan Tannehill that played for the Miami Dolphins is not the guy that you're looking at chucking the ball around up there for the Tennessee Titans. I mean, that
the Robbie Anderson you saw playing for the Carolina Panthers is not the Robbie Anderson you saw in New York. And thank God he turned into a possession receiver. Imagine if he was only a downfield threat like some of us thought he would be and what his numbers would have looked like last year. And one other point to that, Cody, is that don't forget, Matt Rule was in the running for the New York Jets job.
Yes,
he
true.
was comfortable taking over a team with Sam Darnold at the helm.
Oh, fantastic point, Tony. Great point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, Matt Rule was it the Jets or the Giants that Matt Rule was trying to go to?
The Giants was the year that we were going after him.
Yeah.
But the year before, I think the Jets had an opportunity.
Right, yeah.
They chose Gase over top of him.
Because I don't know if I don't even know if Sam Darnold was Gase pick.
Tony, I want to answer your question from earlier.
It wasn't. He had Todd Bowles on the team.
This is the difference between Teddy Bridgewater, 53 touchdowns, 36 interceptions versus Sam Darnold's 45 touchdowns to 39 interceptions. So again, those numbers are a bit misleading, but in less than half the time.
Less than half the time.
Darnold has only almost as many touchdowns as Teddy Bridgewater does.
And he missed 8 games with mono or something that one year.
Can we talk about something real quick? Because I think this is important. On a team that is the Jets, to have people still coming in here from the Jets who are saying they hope he does well, that he is still a good quarterback, he's a gem. I mean, I think that speaks to something, guys. I mean, I know that there might be some people that are similar to Teddy Bridgewater lovers who just really love Teddy Bridgewater so much that he can do no wrong. Maybe the same thing with Sam Darnold, but the majority of people popping in here are people that are fans of the Jets, and they're saying that you guys got a good one here. Like I think you've got to be encouraged when you see that from a fan base that is synonymous for throwing people under the bus too quickly.
So can I be honest?
I think to be fair, I think the Jets fans can want to have moved on from Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And believe he got screwed at the same time. I don't think those positions have to fight with each other. Both can be true. Is that you're at number 2. This is a prime opportunity. We're worried about the long-term prospects to the sake of it, but we also know that we were a contributing factor in this failure.
Yeah, Tom, New York City says he's a great dude, loves Sam. And listen, to me, that kind of seems like what it is. If you're a Jets fan, at one point in time, he was the 3rd pick in the draft. I mean, you're picking number 2 right now. It's like they had a top 3 pick at quarterback. And remember, I mean, let's not do the revisionist history thing here. I remember everyone was pretty much unanimous in believing that Sam Darnold was the most pro-rated quarterback coming out of that draft, ahead of Josh Allen, ahead of Lamar Jackson, ahead of Baker Mayfield. And
what was the order that year? What was the
Baker
order
Mayfield?
That was Baker Mayfield, number 1, Saquon Barkley, number 2,
Sam Darnold, number 3. Josh Rosen was after that, right?
Rosen
was 5. Rosen was 5 because Lamar Jackson was 6. But not 6 in the draft, but the 6th quarterback taken. So
I don't remember the entire order.
I just wonder what quarterbacks went around. It was Baker Mayfield. That was
Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen.
Josh Allen went 7, I think.
Yeah, Josh Allen. And those were trade ups. The Bills traded up for Josh Allen, and then Lamar Jackson. And the reason that I like this move a lot better than moving up in the draft is if you look at the Pat McAfee show, which if you guys don't watch it, it's hilarious, but also very informative and a different viewpoint than most networks, similar to what we do. They had a graphic up showing the last 10 years of first round draft pick quarterbacks. How many of them are on the team that they started with when they were drafted?
Yeah, most of them aren't.
Not a single one other than the last 3 years, are still on the teams that they were drafted by. Not a single one in the past 10 years, other than the past 3 years, is still on the same team.
But see, even I don't like doing
knowing
that.
what the fuck they're doing. I want to remind this. It's the idea that we just think that just because these people have titles beside their names knows that they're so more well informed. And I'm not trying to say I'm trying to be a GM or nothing, but sometimes we just say, oh, they know best. And that doesn't necessarily say that.
I wonder this, to any Jets fan that we still have lingering in our chat room, by the way, shout out to y'all, man. It's still 296 people strong on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this impromptu reaction video. But to any Jets fans that we might still have lurking in our chat, are there any amongst you that think that the Jets made the wrong move here? Is there anyone up in New York that's willing to think, or, I realize it's probably the minority because most fans are like us. They're able to see what Zach Wilson is able to do, and he's on a longer, cheaper contract than Sam.
You got it too. When when the rumors were that nobody would give more than a low third for him.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, my question is is there any, Jets fans out there that kind of feels like, man, Sam got the raw end of the stick, and if he goes to Carolina and balls out and starts chucking the football downfield and looks really good, then maybe they might end up regretting this at one point in time, obviously they're hoping that's not what happens. But man, if Sam Darnold is able to have anything close to a Ryan Tannehill kind of turnaround, man, this is the most worth it trade that we possibly could have made, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a win-win. It's a win-win for everybody.
That's what I was about to say. I don't think anybody lost this trade, right?
Yeah.
At least in the current environment, if you look at it from the outside looking in, this is a very clear win-win for everybody. The Jets, see the difference here, and this is where I think that we made the right choice. Instead of trading up, giving away 3 first-round draft picks to trade up for a quarterback, the Jets were already in a position to get their next quarterback, period. They were already there. They didn't have to give up the farm. They were able to just get the guy that they want from here on out, especially with the fact, and they talked about it in the chat, so I can't remember who it said, but especially with the fact that Sam Darnold's 5th-year option is coming up, and then obviously the money situation. So now they have a brand new rookie quarterback. It was the best thing for them. They're not going to have an opportunity like this again if they were to sign Darnold for a while, right? And so whereas we didn't want to give up the farm to move up to number 2 or number 3 and get a guy who isn't necessarily, going to work out, who has just as much upside as anybody else in the draft, or as even Sam Darnold possibly could, depending upon the coaching. I think you guys got to keep in mind, Joe Burrow is a prime example of why you need to focus on Sam Darnold. And I'm telling you this because when you have good coaching, Joe Burrow is older than Sam Darnold, and he just became a really good quarterback last year or the year before, right? Because he had a great coach to help him get over that slump. I think we just need to get him a great coach, one that's going to trust him to do what he needs to do. And you don't think he's going to come over here with confidence, with more on one side, a receiver that he has chemistry with on the other, with Robbie Anderson, and then CMC in the back? And who knows who we get in the draft? If we got